Japan has been plunged into a security turmoil not seen since the Second World War. Tensions with regional powers such as Russia, China, and North Korea are forcing Tokyo to make new defense and foreign policy choices. Geopolitical cards are being shuffled faster, and alliances and strategic partnerships are being reviewed. Recently, Japan's tendency to strengthen its contacts with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, and even to take on an independent mission and pursue far-reaching partnerships has made headlines around the world. While the emphasis on NATO-dominated military cooperation has made the Russian Federation very uneasy, the People's Republic of China, the giant player in the region, is closely monitoring Japan's moves. In particular, Tokyo's inclination to relax its defense restrictions, known as the Pacifist Constitution, resonates even in Japanese society, which has been pacifist since the Second World War. In the midst of all this, Japan is accelerating its strategic alignment with NATO, a move that has been dubbed Russia's most feared move, as it seeks to strengthen its hand in the face of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea's, North Korea's, missile tests and China's military expansionism. Tokyo's launch of these radical defense reforms is motivated by long-standing concerns that the balance of power in the Pacific is changing, especially with the rise of China. While Japan maintains its long-standing security alliance with the United States of America, diplomacy with the Russian Federation over the long-standing Kuril Islands, or Northern Territories as Japan calls them, seems to have been shelved. While the war in Ukraine has largely diverted the Russian military's attention to the Western Front, Japan fears an unexpected move in its northern territories. The invasion of Ukraine seems to have prompted Tokyo's political elites to ask, what would we do if a similar crisis were to occur in our region? One concrete example is Japan's plan to sharply increase defense spending. Traditionally spending 1% of its gross domestic product, GDP, on defense, Japan aims to increase this to 2% in the coming years, an unprecedented increase in the post-war period. Until now, Japan has relied on its special defense relationship with the United States of America, but when the question of an independent mission with NATO came up, some confusing questions arose. Will Japan take part in NATO operations in Europe, or will it coordinate military exercises with NATO in the Asia-Pacific? There are different interpretations. Some analysts argue that Tokyo wants to work closely with NATO countries in areas such as cybersecurity, intelligence sharing, and missile defense technology. Others say Russia is intimidated because Japan has the potential to open a second front in the Pacific through joint exercises with European powers. This could be a nightmare scenario for Moscow. Indeed, Russian state media has been characterized by harsh rhetoric, accusing Japan of turning into another NATO pawn. Kremlin spokespeople have also claimed that Tokyo is nostalgic for aggressive militarism. On the Japanese side, however, these accusations are dismissed as completely baseless, with Tokyo's message being that it is taking normalization steps in the face of current regional threats. In fact, Japan's decision is not just about the Russian Federation but also about China's expansionism in the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait, as well as North Korea's relentless missile tests. Kim Jong-un's successive ballistic missile tests have frequently alerted Japan's air defense systems. Some missiles pass close to Japanese airspace or fall into its waters. These actions are causing great discomfort and anxiety in Tokyo. Moreover, the dialogue agenda with North Korea seems to be controlled by Beijing. The perception that China is the best handler of North Korea bothers Tokyo, and Japan is signaling that it may prefer to be part of a broader front with the United States and NATO on this issue. If Japan, which in geopolitical terms has been called the Western Bloc's stronghold in Asia, strengthens this role, the strategic picture in the Pacific will become more complicated for Russia and China. Indeed, according to recent reports, Japan first diplomatically announced its independent mission in the NATO context. While some sources do not clarify whether this is a military mission or cyber and intelligence-oriented cooperation, it is of great concern to the Kremlin. Russia's reduced military presence on the northern front and its focus on Ukraine weakens its hand. At the same time, the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force is modernizing its navy with new frigates, submarines, and vertical takeoff and landing fighter jets such as the F-35B. The image of Japan with no offensive capability has been shelved. There are growing voices in Japanese politics advocating for the acquisition of the ability to strike enemy bases if necessary. This is a concept long forbidden by the post-war Japanese constitution, but changing geopolitics is pushing Tokyo towards such a transformation. Another dimension is the long-standing defense treaty between the United States and Japan. However, the United States is demanding more initiative from Japan because of its global multi-front engagement. The fact that Japan, which is not a member of NATO, acts in an integrated manner with NATO countries fuels the concerns of the Russia-China-North Korea trilateralism about changing the balance in Asia in favor of NATO. On the Moscow front, there is the question, could Japan's NATO move be a challenge to us in the Arctic Ocean or the Kuril Islands? Beijing, on the other hand, wonders if Japan is trying to encircle China in the Asia-Pacific, together with the United States and North Korea. Of course, North Korea is looking at it as Japan's military buildup meaning more threats to their missiles. So we can say that Japan, with one move, is winning the reaction of three countries. Now, it may sound exaggerated to say that a dark nightmare scenario is enveloping Russia, but historically, Moscow's biggest concern is a two-front war or confrontation with the allies of the United States on multiple fronts. The war in Ukraine has already exposed the Russian army's losses and logistical difficulties. If Japan conducts joint exercises and patrols with NATO in the Asia-Pacific, the Russian Federation would be forced to increase its military presence in the Far East. This would put Moscow under heavy sanctions and economic hardship. Therefore, Japan's new role is a significant problem for the Russian Federation. The biggest threat from Japan is its full integration into the United States strategy in Asia. The Russian press often writes, on the other hand, that Japan is also adopting an underdog position against this rising threat. The security environment around us has become the most complex and dangerous since the Second World War, the Defense Ministry said. According to Tokyo, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea's missile tests, the People's Republic of China's ambitions, and the repercussions of the Russian Federation's invasion of Ukraine are forcing Japan to adopt an entirely new defense doctrine. Japan now wants to build not only a passive defense but also a counterattack capacity. In this context, it is seeking support from the North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries in areas such as missile technology, radar systems, and intelligence sharing. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization may also be realizing the strategic importance of working more closely with Japan against China and Russia in Asia. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization Summit in Lithuania also decided to deepen relations with Pacific partners such as Japan, Australia, the Republic of Korea, and New Zealand. This is one of the scenarios Russia fears most, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization gaining a presence in the Asia-Pacific. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea is perhaps one of the most uncomfortable parties because it does not even have a peace treaty with Japan and has a Kim Jong-un who talks about missiles beyond its borders at every opportunity. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea accuses Japan of remilitarization and continues its missile tests with threatening rhetoric, such as, "We will destroy you with fire." Japan is taking this very seriously and may request additional air defense support from the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. This could also lead Beijing to step in, as the People's Republic of China sees itself as the mediator in the Korean Peninsula issue. Even though there are points of tension between Pyongyang and Beijing, it does not want to leave the Democratic People's Republic of Korea in the hands of the United States allies. Against this backdrop, it is not yet clear what kind of cooperation with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization Japan really means by an independent mission. Some rumors suggest that the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force will be involved in North Atlantic Treaty Organization naval exercises as an observer or limited participant. Some say joint operations in intelligence and cybersecurity. It is even possible that Japan could have a symbolic naval presence in the Black Sea or the Balkans. For now, these are rumors without official confirmation, but the Russian Federation takes even these rumors very seriously because Japan's military power and technological level are quite high, and if it acts under the umbrella of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the Russian Navy could get stuck in the Far East. Of course, there is also a debate in Japanese society. The Second World War Constitution gives Japan the right to self-defense only and forbids offensive action, but today the government is taking steps to revise this constitution. Public opinion is not completely divided, but the growing threat perception is strengthening the desire among the younger generation to, let's be a normal country, build an army, and defend ourselves. In this process, the encouragement from the United States of America and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization coincides with the message, you have historical constraints, but today's world is different. This is where the Russian Federation's greatest fear comes into play, Japan fully realizing its legendary military potential and putting pressure on Russia on the Eastern Front together with its allies. Let us see what happens in the short term. Japan will not take the step of making itself a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization because of constitutional and political obstacles, but with its status as a North Atlantic Treaty Organization partner, it could go much further in terms of joint exercises, cybersecurity sharing, and logistical coordination. This is a move to limit the Russian Federation's room for maneuver in the Pacific. It also means increasing regional solidarity against the People's Republic of China's unilateral initiatives. As for the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, if it continues to escalate its missile launches, Japan's integrated military power with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization could legitimize the counterstrike capability argument. Kim Jong-un is therefore looking for a way out in this balance, but Beijing does not seem to have full control over Pyongyang. In the midst of all this confusion, Japan may be thinking that it wants to respond more forcefully to the pressures from the Russia-China-North Korea triad. It does not want to be dependent on the United States of America as its only ally. It is time to build a serious defense partnership with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. From the Russian Federation's point of view, Japan moving in this direction is unacceptable and the worst-case scenario. Therefore, it is possible that the Russia-China-North Korea bloc will get closer to Japan, perhaps organize joint exercises, and try to isolate Japan diplomatically. But this would mean a major polarization around the world, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the United States of America, and Japan on one side, the Russian Federation, the People's Republic of China, and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea on the other. There are analysts who see this picture as a real Cold War 2.0. Of course, each country has its own interests, and the conjuncture can change at any time. As a result, the headline, "Japan launches independent mission to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization," came up with phrases like, "Russia's worst fears are coming true." In reality, there is a huge strategic transformation. Japan is overcoming historical constraints in its defense policy, deepening its cooperation with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and seeking to move from a passive to an active role. The Russian Federation, the People's Republic of China, and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea see this as a threat to their security. The balance of power in the Pacific is entering what has been called the most complex security environment. At what point this will turn into a conflict or a broader bloc is not clear, but for now, the trajectory looks tense and Cold War-like. We will see how much Russia and China will react with diplomatic statements and military measures, and how the Democratic People's Republic of Korea will respond with missile tests. What do you think about this? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and like our video.